All right, anything that comes out of this behavior of some part of Nigeria, referring to northern Nigeria, against Americans, they go use their head, carry on. Thank God Americans are on ground in Nigeria. They are here and you are matching their flags. Israeli flag, people are trampling upon their flags. What kind of insult is that? That one is above insult. It's turning into another thing.
Well, there are other details, you know, the Nigerian embassy, the American embassy in Abuja, the consulate in Abuja, or is it the embassy they have there, has cancelled further visa applications for Nigerians because your people have been protesting everywhere in Abuja, Lagos, and all of that. Even Abuja has been shut down by security people. But Nigerians protesting about something they know nothing about. The deification of ignorance in this country is one of the sore points about being Nigerian.
Now all eyes on Nigeria. I am begging the international community. I am begging Donald Trump. Tag him and whoever is concerned. All eyes now on Nigeria. What they have failed to do now, Sahara has simplified it. Now all eyes should be on Nigeria, please. The list of the financiers of terrorism in Nigeria has just...
Canada will soon be under Islamic rule too. Maybe in 30 years we will have a majority in the parliament. Not sure about US, but in Canada it's going to happen. We already have our people winning local elections. We have 4 or 5 kids each, while they have 1 or 2. It's just a matter of time until we become majority.
And you know that US is already here to solve a problem in Nigeria, and you people are there escalating the problem. You see how God done the catching you people. God is catching them. That is what is happening. But all I know is that, well, Americans are on ground, they know and they see exactly what is happening. They will not drag the southern part of Nigeria or the southeast into the matter. Already the maps of how to, you know, solve Nigerian problem is already on ground. Yes, the plan is on ground, and very soon the distraction in Iran may end, and they are going to commence what they want to do with Nigeria. And I bet you that if that thing is taking so long, they can do it simultaneously. Yes, we are talking about saving lives, because as things are going on, they are still killing. They are still abducting people. They are still forcing people to convert to Islam. So I believe that if America want to, they can still handle these things simultaneously, the situation. Well, let's listen to this. We'll come back, we'll continue.
Hello, so I just watched a very disturbing video in one of those, I think it was staged in one of those Muslim majority states in the north, the northern part of Nigeria. And school kids, obviously they were just like middle school or high school kids, were meant to line up and march on American flags, which was laid on the ground, and Israeli flags. You see, I considered that disturbing because if you see the age of those kids, they are minors, and that goes for to show that this is a kind of orientation these guys give these kids, and then they grow up with that kind of orientation, an orientation that is built on hatred, on evil. You know, something is happening in the Middle East, and you are staging a protest here, matching American flags, matching Israeli flags, and come to look at it. Look, the problem in the Middle East is a problem between Israel, America, and strictly Iran. Iran have vowed to wipe out Israel from the surface of the earth, have vowed to also fight America, and they are fighting back. So Israel is just fighting a war to simply exist. Iran has always been a secular state, long before 1979. In short, thousands of years ago, Iran, the Persians, were some of the best friends of the Jews. If you read your Bible in the book of Isreal, it was actually King Cyrus, the Persian king, who helped to rebuild Jerusalem and to ask to help the Jews go back to the land of Israel, Judea, you know, when they were dispersed. So they have been some of the best friends. But you know, when the Ayatollah came, and by the way, this Ayatollah, I'm talking of the first Ayatollah, Ayatollah Khomeini, the current one who was killed recently by Americans, by Israelis. is Ayatollah Khamenei, his successor. So Khomeini started the Islamic Revolution in 1979 when he established the Islamic State in Iran. Iran has always been secular, always been secular. Christians living side by side with Muslim, with Zoroastrianism, that's the main religion, by the way, of Iran long ago. And even the atheists, non-believers, but when these guys took over, and where were they coming from? Ayatollah was out of Iran for the last 20 years before he staged a revolution in 1979. He was in Turkey, but because of his extremism, Turkey banned him. Turkey was a Muslim country. And he was in another Muslim country, Iraq. And Saddam Hussein expelled him. And he went to a Western country, the same Western countries that they love to hate. He was in France. It was from France that he staged that revolution. And on his first day landing in Tehran, he came with Air France. You see? But upon assumption of office, he established Sharia as the theocracy of Sharia as the principal policy of the state and the principal religion of the state. That's where all these problems come from. Why can't you live in peace? Why can't you detach religion from the state and practice religion as something very private? And so with that, he started the policy of the total obliteration of Israel. You just establish a government in your country, and the next thing was that you place Israel as a country unfit to exist, that you have to destroy Israel. And the next thing, he declared all Western countries and all Christians as oppressors that need to be fought everywhere. And he started exporting terrorism. Sponsored Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and many other terrorist organizations in the world to fight Christians, to fight Western nations, to fight Jews, to fight Israel. What kind of man is that? What kind of ideology is that? And to that extent, they even put up a digital clock in Iran that was counting down to the day that Israel will be. They were like to count down 25 years. The digital clock, because they say in 25 years they'll wipe out Israel. And it was counting down. Very big clock in Tehran. And by the way, let me tell you, majority of Iranians are happy with the United States and Israel for what is happening. I have more than 50 Iranian friends. In this my town here, I have more than 10 Iranian friends. One of my best family friends is Iranian. My son's classmate, his best friend in his class, Arash, Reza. They are so happy, they've been celebrating. And then you cry more than the bereaved. You in Nigeria, you're just staging protests everywhere. In Pakistan, they were staging violent protests. In many parts of the Muslim world. Outside the Middle East. But look at the Middle East. They are also fighting this menace of the Ayatollahs. Many of the Sunni countries in the Middle East, UAE, Saudi, Oman, Jordan. But in Nigeria, these guys are just creating nuisance everywhere that they are protesting. I'm a Catholic. In 1981, May precisely, on the anniversary of the apparition of Our Lady of Fatima, a certain Muslim guy from Turkey, Mehmet Ali Akka, shot at Pope John Paul, the Pope at that point, one of the most famous popes in the Catholic Church. He wanted to kill Pope. He shot at the Pope. Attempted murder. He wanted to kill the Pope. But what happened? How was the response of Christians all over the world and the Catholic Church? Nothing. Rather, in the Pope's own country of Poland, they just went on night vigil, reciting the rosary throughout while he was in the hospital recovering. Nobody protested. In Italy and many other places, people just staged a walk, a silent walk with candles on cassock, white cassock. Nobody. That's the proper definition of religion of peace. The Pope himself forgave that guy. The guy was jailed by the Italian authorities. And through that forgiveness, the Pope visited him in the hospital. And through that act of the Pope and the act of Christians all over the world, the guy was begging that he wants to be a priest. He wants to be a Catholic. I don't know what has happened to him, but the guy is free. I think he's back to Turkey. That is It speaks in how you act, in your religion. You don't just go marching people's flags, destroying people's flags, because someone who deserved to be killed was killed in Iraq. Yes, he deserved to be killed because he was threatening all these guys. He has been sponsoring groups, terror groups, to destroy Israel. So what Israel is fighting is simply fighting for survival. And I've always said that survival, the war to survive, to exist, is fought differently. This guy cannot stand Israel, cannot stand the United States. He has established Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khomeini, and succeeded by Ayatollah Khamenei, the guy who was just killed recently. And they are saying they want to spread jihad all over the world. They want to spread jihad, but guess what? In order to spread that jihad, they are requiring weapons from a Christian nation of Russia so that they can fight jihad and spread Islam. They are requiring weapons at every time from the Buddhist nation, the Tao nation of China. That's where they get their arms. Russia, Christian nation, China, Buddhist nation, to fight jihad, to promote Islam all over the world. And then the third other nation, the number 3, is the atheist nation that do not have even religion at all, that worship idol. North Korea. They are requiring weapons at every time from North Korea to fight jihad. What kind of nonsense is that? You are not strong. You are getting your weapons from people who do not share your ideology, who do not share your faith, to fight for the promotion of your faith. And a lot of people are not seeing the nuisance, the nonsense in this kind of mentality. What does it take for us to be peaceful people? Let everybody practice his religion in peace, as a private thing. What does it take? So some of us are angry with this because a lot of people begin to question us, why are we talking about Iran, the war in Iran? Yeah, we are talking about it because Iran has been exporting terrorism all over the world. They are one of the reasons why terrorism is in Nigeria. They've been promoting it. They've sent arms. They've sent finances. There are several occasions that Iranian arms have been confiscated at the port in Lagos, and Turkish arms. You know? So it concerns all of us. They need to be demolished. Let people practice their religion in peace. Persians are celebrating all over the world. Iranians are celebrating. Then we have some kind of nonsense set of people in Nigeria just protesting these burning flags, American flag, burning Israeli flag. We can do better, guys. It's so fortunate. It's so fortunate that we're sharing the same entity, geographical entity, with those kind of evil thinking creatures.
Well, America is a country I know that is built on God we trust. That is their motto, on God we trust. Yes. So anything they are doing, they have to establish that fact and be sure that what they are doing is for humanity and for God himself. And they're not coming to force human beings, other people, to do your religion. Eh? I will show you a video about Iran. Iran is not a Muslim country before. You know, when people are telling you people these things, or when people are saying it, you know, some people don't understand these things. Countries like Turkey, what is it? Iran is not Muslim country before. But these people carried out their jihad or whatever they call, and they convert these people, and they have their plans of getting, you know, conquering a place. That is how they do it. So you see the picture of Iran and how it looks like. Thank you.
You see this video running on my page. This video is how Iran looked in the 50s. They are moderate Muslims. They pray in their houses, but they are free to live a free life. How can you come? You chase out the criminals who are sucking your oil, which is the Britain and the American. you chase them out. Because Iran have a successful government who is giving people the dividend of democracy, as the Abia state governor is giving the state dividend of democracy. Then now the three wise thieves in that state now, they are ganging up on how to remove the governor. The president of Iran then was giving them good democracy, say, Britain, don't suck our oil, leave our country, leave our oil, let us develop. As Patrick Lumumba said, leave our platinum, leave our gold, leave our solid mineral, let us develop. Britain ran to Washington. Washington arranged a CIA. They arranged $1 million between MI16 and the CIA. Then swing to action in Iran. Use that $1 million to bribe people. Because of some of una wey dey craze during election time, una go collect 5,000, collect 10,000, forgetting that money that you people are collecting, you will finish it. Now those generals who toppled that man, then toppled that man in 1979, another group of people came and removed them, said that they are Islamic Republic now, then turn it to a religious country. Let me tell you, religion have destroyed our core value. Let's just be realistic here. I don't want anybody to look at me. Religion have destroyed our core value. That's why if you go to my comment section, because I say Iran is not an Islamic country, they are there insulting me. They are fighting.
Well, you have gotten that explanation from that video. You know, we try as much as possible to bring to you versatile audios and videos so that you don't hear only what we are saying. That is what we do. And having watched that, let's also watch this. When we come back, we are going to call it a day. Thank you.
In the Middle East, after the US and Israel launched coordinated airstrikes killing Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, commonly known as Shiites, took to the streets on Monday, staging protests in major cities, including Lagos, Kano, and Sokoto. The protests saw thousands of demonstrators chanting slogans against the US and Israeli governments, whom they hold accountable for the assassination. The protesters carried placards expressing their outrage, and many called for solidarity with Iran in the face of escalating aggression from Western powers.
We support Iran! We support Iran! We support Iran!
Well, in Lagos, protesters gathered around strategic locations, voicing their demand for the Nigerian government to take a firmer stance against foreign interference in Islamic affairs. Meanwhile, in Sokoto, the atmosphere was charged with demonstrators marching through the streets, leading to heavy police presence to maintain order. These protests underscore the growing discontent among Shiite communities in Nigeria, reflecting a deeper sentiment regarding the geopolitical dynamics in the region. Dr. Abati, we're seeing the ripple effect of this US-Israeli-Iran war. Now we're seeing, our Muslim brothers and sisters out there saying that, they support Iran and obviously expressing their grievance. The Shiite movement is very alive at this moment, with the supreme leader being, part of the movement as well.
Okay, it's very unfortunate that an incident in the Middle East, which has to do with geopolitics, competition for power among the big nations and all that, the part of it that would be of interest to Nigerian citizens is religion. This is again an indication of how religion is such a sensitive issue in Nigeria. You have the Sunni Muslims in Nigeria who are in the majority. You have the Shiite who are of the Shiite ideological orientation in Nigeria. So it's easy to assume that this will be the Shiites who are dragging the American flag on the floor, who are dragging the Israeli flag. Yeah. My take is that many of these persons involved in this protest, they don't even know what the conflict is all about. They have no idea. Some individual may just have mobilized them to go and fight for Iran and support Iran. Something that, in terms of their own circumstances, is not religion that is affecting them. They should be more concerned about the implications for cost of living in Nigeria. They should be more concerned about the implications for the pump price of fuel, which, we spoke about earlier on, has already gone up in Nigeria, as it has also in many parts of the world. They are just protesting, religion, which is why religion will continue to be divisive in this country. Our expectation will have been that whether you are Shiite or Sunni, you should join the global community that is pushing for peace, because it is when the world is a peaceful place that all of us will be able to live. However, the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Diso, has already placed his commissioners around the country on alert to say that, they should ensure that a problem many miles away, does not become an issue for destabilization in Nigeria. And I think that directive by the Inspector General of Police, Disu, should be taken seriously by the policemen across the country. Not to brutalize people, because they will insist on the freedom of expression, Section 40, Section 39, and the right to freedom of thought, Section 38. That's not what we're talking about. But to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order, and that Nigerians don't start attacking themselves because of an incident in the Middle East. Even if anybody will say, oh, we're a global village, but we should be prepared as a people in terms of how the fallout can affect us, not emotional demonstration down with this and all that. Yeah. No.
The story continued to unravel. Meanwhile, in Bauchi State, a video reportedly showing the dramatic exodus of residents from Mansour and surrounding areas in Al-Khalieri local government area of the state has gone viral on social media. The video emerged following a violent siege by terrorists forcing thousands to flee their homes, with many seeking refuge in neighboring Gombe state. This was shocking. This attack follows an earlier incident on February 22nd, when terrorists targeted a joint task force base in Guana district, resulting in the deaths of 2 soldiers and 1 vigilante, alongside the abduction of 3 members of the community. Eyewitness account described the perpetrators, estimated to be over 10,000 heavily armed assailants, possibly affiliated with Fulani terrorist groups or ISWAP, arriving on motorcycles and launching indiscriminate attacks across communities such as Diagé, Guana, and Futuk, and others. Well, the Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has confirmed the invasion and announced an emergency fund of 50 million naira to assist displaced residents. He has urged for swift federal support to address the crisis. In response, the Bauchi State Police Command has deployed additional forces and reassured the public by increasing patrols and intelligence gathering to restore safety. I mean, this particular incident, there's been no report of casualty at the moment, but you saw that video, Ayo. I mean, it just felt like we were in Sudan or somewhere, a war zone at this moment.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why, people have often said that whilst we keep one eye on the Middle East and the Gulf areas and this war, we should have a bigger eye on Nigeria, because the conflict still exists. It would be quite hypocritical of us to criticize or analyze a war that, yes, affects Nigeria in one way or the other when we are still under siege in our own country. I mean, take a look at this. Whilst America and Israel are trading bombs or are at war with Iran, Nigeria is at war with itself, held under siege by bandits, terrorists, whom the government has not made, enough efforts to actually pull back. Look at this. Like you mentioned, it's almost as if it does in the south and the north. There's such a big difference when it comes to the state of insecurity. Yes. And if we think because you live in the south, you're insulated from this, it's only a matter of time before it continues to move in and in. Initially, we used to just talk about the northeastern states like, Zamfara, Borno state. Now we're seeing states like Niger, we're seeing Kebbi state, we're seeing states that are under siege by these bandits. Number one is that what can the state governors do? Not a lot, aside from, of course, the soft power provision of infrastructure to reduce the incentives to go into a life of criminality, engagement with locals so that they do not entertain, or they're able to receive intelligence from the locals so that they do not entertain these terrorists. But beyond that is that until we have state police, and that's why we keep talking about that, they can only do as much. And then now to the federal, the center. Whilst there's a lot of announcements being made, talk about the efforts made by the government to tackle insecurity, unfortunately, we are not seeing the direct impact on how safe and secure Nigerians feel in these areas. And so what we see is a reaction. Oh, we'll provide support. We'll release this amount of money to rehabilitate. But Nigerians should move away from that to seeing how we can prevent this from happening. And that's why I end on saying we must come back to the conversation around, if we don't show a seriousness to tackling this issue around the financiers of terrorism, going after them, we do not, cut off their supply, their lifeblood in terms of their finances, we'll continue to have these issues. If we don't see arrests following these invasions by these terrorists, we will not see a lot happening in that regard. And so the big thing we keep talking about is that how can every Nigerian, irrespective of where they live in the country, feel safe and not feel like they're at war in their own country?
Yes. Absolutely, a spot on. I mean, a lot of the people in the north actually do believe that they are at war. I mean, they do feel that they're at war. Every single day we're seeing such incidents, and now people are displaced. We hope for a day in Nigeria where we don't have any more IDP camps. Let's head over to Edo State now, where the governor of the state, Monday Okpebolo, shocked a crowd of protesters and activists on Monday when he joined the group to protest against the Benin Electricity Distribution Company. The protest was put together by the organized Edo people against BEDC oppression group in Benin City. Okpebolo, while addressing the crowd, agreed with them that BEDC is not doing enough. Let's take a look.
We are all youth. Is that not so? Yes. Are we not Edo youth? Yes. So I've come to join you on the protest. The only way we can fight them is to bring stakeholders into this business of distribution.
Yes.
I want to let you know we will break the monopoly. And that monopoly does not belong to one man. So how do we do it? We have to operate like the way telecom operates. Bringing different stakeholders, bringing different companies so that we can have light.
Our camera guy in the studio is from Edo State, your governor. Well, the governor said he would have a meeting today with stakeholders on the issue. However, ex-users have questioned why the governor of the state is joining the protest as opposed to assuring people that as their leader, he will provide or improve security and electricity supply in the state. I will take Adeni's tweet. He wrote, "Nigeria is exhausting. How does a sitting governor join residents to protest electricity for something he has the power to fix? You're in government. Solve it. Leadership is not protest." In the meantime, a clip from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2023 campaign has resurfaced online as it shows the president, then a presidential candidate, making a promise to voters that if he is unable to deliver stable and affordable electricity in his first term, voters shouldn't give him a second chance. Let's take a look.
Whichever way, by all means necessary, you must have electricity. and you will not pay for estimated bill anymore. A promise made will be a promise kept. If I can't keep the promise and I come back for second term, don't vote for me. That's the truth. Unless I give you adequate reasons why I couldn't deliver. And it's convincing enough.
A promise made is a promise kept. Well, former presidential candidate Peter Obi also recently discussed this trending video on his X page, in which he pointed out that the national grid collapsed at least twice in January and collapsed about 12 times in 2025, highlighting how a candidate's promise during a campaign can easily resurface when they are not kept. Rufai, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in that resurface clip, urged Nigerians not to vote for him if we do not have constant electricity supply. And now we see the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebolo, out on the streets protesting inadequate electricity supply in his state.
Okay, couple of things. President Tinubu said we should not vote for him if he can't provide power. Like he said, he's not been able to provide power. In fact, should I tell you what he's done? He's taken the presidential villa, he's taking it to solar. Is going off the grid. So it shows that President Tinubu, in terms of power provision, has been a failure. A big-time failure. Let me even excite you even more. President Tinubu promised the electricity operators that last year was going to pay their over 4 trillion debts there, legacy debt. Today, that debt has gone up to 6 trillion. President Tinubu keeps dribbling them. The other day, the Nation newspaper came out to say that there's been a body set up to be able to evaluate and check if those monies were actually correct, and they beat out that money to about 2.8 trillion. The electricity operators came out to say it's a lie. So the government is playing politics with power. They are not ready. And President Tinubu has failed as regards this. So if you say don't vote for him as regards power, except he gives you a reason, I'm going to tell you authoritatively, he has no reason. He has just failed. He's not been able to solve his problem. He's been a massive failure as regards power. Then he's running to solar. The fact that he's running to solar is a big indictment on him. Secondly, as regards power situation in the country, we have installed capacity of over 13,000. The national grid cannot hold more than 5,000-6,000 because it's moribund. He's not been able to fix the national grid. He's made endless promises about Siemens coming in. They keep talking about deals here and there. We don't see any action on the grid. Most importantly, Akpakomisa that is going ahead to protest, the joke is on him. His predecessor built something called Osiomo Power Plant, 95 megawatts. Has he built any power plants? The Chinese partners of the Osiomo Power Plant pulled out of the JV as of 1st of September 2025 because they couldn't meet the agreements. So we should ask him, what happened to Osiomo Power Plant? You see, these politicians are very hypocritical people. That's why with the crop of politicians we have, Nigeria can never move forward. That's why you have a level of insecurity. The state is obviously overwhelmed. Ayo, you are seeing a losing state. You are seeing South Sudan in the making. You are seeing Somalia in what is happening in Bauchi. A losing state. A state where bandits are raiding people. People are running away. Terrorists are raiding people. Look at them running away. It's the same people this Nigerian state want to come and ask taxes from. And they are making new tax law for. The government cannot even do anything for these people. Will these people tell you that they have any impact of the government in their lives? So you can see, plus Akpakomisa that is going to protest because his own father, Tinubu, that he said if Tinubu does not enter, he will resign. His own father has failed nationally. He thinks BEDC does not want to give power to their customers. It's because of the failure of his own father on the national scene, President Tinubu, that he's saying he's going to resign if he does. If people don't vote, I want to give 2 million votes in Edo. Do you know how many million voters? I don't even know how many million voters that are coming out to vote. They say want to give 2 million votes for. It's because of his failure of his father at the national level that BEDC. How many votes
did he get himself?
I don't even know. I don't even care to know.
Okay.
So if his father failed on the national scale, he's not going to protest against BEDC and harass BEDC, say they are not doing well. They are not doing well. They are not doing well. Yeah. And he has Osiomo Power there. Yeah. They've not been able to fix Osiomo Power because he has not even built new power plants. Maybe they've passed the law that states can now, adapt their own power. How many power plants has he built? How many investors has he brought to the states that regards power? The Osioma one that is there, they left it. These guys are a bunch of jokers.
All right, but the bigger picture really is about electricity. And, you know, we do need constant electricity supply in Nigeria. I mean, I'll start again with my Ndukwa Nation. Ndukwa Nation is still in darkness. I've been talking about electricity in Ndukwa Nation.
For so many years.
But you know, the governor of the state has promised and they are working, and I have seen some results already. So hopefully this year, 2026, Ndukwa Nation will have electricity by the grace of God. And we also...
You know that's what you said last year.
Last year was just half of the year, it was August. So the whole of 2026, let's see. I mean, you know, I'm always optimistic.
Yes, and you have to.
Always have to. I mean, and the idea is about engagement. So we have to continue to engage with several stakeholders to make sure. I mean, electricity is our right. Is it really not? Yeah. I mean, come on.
In 2026, we should be arguing about that.
2026. But you know, I liked that optics to see the governor out there. Governor Monday Okpabula. Oh, well, all right. Well,
all right, viewers, you are welcome back from that particular clip. And honestly, if you have anything you want to tell us, drop it in the comment section. And I still remain Chinedu until I come your way next time. Bye.